Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sarah and this is B.fleye Beauty, and today I wanted to go through 5-ish things that I no longer do since I've been in my 40s related to makeup and beauty. I think we could talk about this for a really long time, and I know that like so many of these things really depend on your skin type and stuff, but the ones I'm going to talk about today are kind of universally helpful. And I think I started some of these in my 30s. So I don't like to say, you can't wear this, you can't put this on your face, because I do think that in the grand scheme of things, whatever makes you feel the most beautiful is what you should put on your face and what you should put on your body and how you should adorn yourself. But coming from someone who I've been doing makeup for a long time. I actually went to school for it, if you didn't know. And just trial and error. Like, I've talked about how I am not really in the market to be an over consumer of beauty products. Not to say that I do not buy them, because I do. I'm not an under buyer necessarily, but I think there's a lot of trends. There's a lot of things that you see on social media that you think could work for you. And we have to remember that, well, a couple things really. A lot of what we see on social media is younger. They're younger people. There are filters, and what really looks good online doesn't always look good in person. We could take it back to 2016, and I might do a video about this, but I do think that 2016, we had a very heavy, very full glam makeup trend. And I'm not opposed to that. But number one, it does not look the same in person. I will tell you that. Like, it really doesn't. It does take some nuance. And when I was in school, like, a lot of what 2016 was stage makeup. Like, that's what we were taught to do for stage, drag, ballet, theater, things like that, newscasters. And it serves its purpose. But I do think that, like, even when I was doing weddings at that time, people would ask for that. And I'm like, okay, that's going to look beautiful in a photo, but you also have to look presentable in person. And I think that we forget that, or we just don't know that a lot of that trend of the full glam, the full contour highlight really is for stage. It's not for every day. It's for photography. It's for stage and stuff. So I think we're kind of going back a little bit towards 2016 with the trends for makeup and the drama, honestly, which is a whole nother thing. But I think when we're starting to get a little bit older, it's not that we can't do these trends. If you want to do the trends, great. But maybe we just adjust them a little bit to serve us a little bit better so we don't look a little crazy in person. Again, coming from someone who has major blush blindness, and I am aware, and I still do it. I still want you to do what makes you feel beautiful. But these things might help you, number one, kind of get through your makeup a little quicker in the morning. Number two, you don't have to put as much on, and it feels a little bit lighter on your face, especially as we're going into these hotter months. Going into, meaning we've already been here for a while if you're in Texas. But the first thing I wanted to talk about was going too heavy on your foundation. And I think this really is for all skin types. And honestly, all ages. And we went through that clean beauty trend that I was kind of happy about, because it was, we tend to pendulum swing back and forth between the extremes. So 2016, super glam, super contoured. We went the opposite end where we were doing super clean beauty, meaning we don't want to see it on our skin. We want to do as light as possible, as easy as possible, as simple as possible. Same thing with home decor. Like, we were super gray and cool. We went super warm and brown, and now we're kind of balancing out. So it's not that you shouldn't wear foundation, but I do think as we get older and we have a little bit more fine lines, we have a little bit more texture depending on your skin type, it can just feel a lot, and it does look a lot in person. You can still look gorgeous and glowy and fabulous with using a little bit lighter. So number one, we're gonna go lighter on foundation. If you already have a foundation you love that you've been using, but you wanna try something different and you wanna try these tips, I would say mix that foundation, maybe a drop, in with your favorite morning moisturizer. If you don't wanna go out and pick up something new. You could purchase something new. I would recommend a tinted moisturizer, honestly. I think it's the best. I think you're getting the SPF, you're getting the moisturizer, and you're getting a little bit of a tint. If you're somebody who still wants to cover maybe some discoloration, maybe some acne spots, whatever that is, I would just go for something very light coverage, maybe not a tinted SPF, but that's what I'm going to use today. And I've talked about this quite a bit, but this is the Sunbum Daily Glow Tinted Sunscreen Moisturizer Broad Spectrum SPF 30. There are a lot of versions of this. I will say that there is, for us, on the older side, I mean, I just turned 45. I really love the Danessa Myricks Yummy Skin tint. I think this is gorgeous. It's definitely a step up coverage wise, but it's light to medium. And if you wanted a more traditional foundation, one that you could maybe use full coverage and then mix with moisturizer and kind of have it do work for you in so many different ways where you're mixing how you need it. I really, really love this one. And I've talked about this for a while, the Age Perfect, L'Oreal Paris Age Perfect Radiant Serum Foundation. I think bringing the glow back, again, another video conversation about the goal for older women is to look younger and youthful. I don't know that, like, again, maybe another conversation. But if you're trying to bring the youthfulness back, the plumpness back, having a little glow really does help that. Something that is super dry, and we'll talk about this in some of the next steps, something that is super dry and powdered does make you look a little older. So depending on what you're trying to go for, the coverage you're wanting, tinted sunscreen, maybe a light skin tint, a little step up, and then a full coverage foundation, medium maybe, that you could mix in. I'm going to personally work on the Sunbum one. And I think this also goes, like, this is kind of 1 and 1.5, which is using too much concealer and where you're placing it. And I think we tend to stick with that 2016, where even if you did want to contour and highlight, like, contouring and highlighting is not the same for every face. And 2016 taught us differently. 2016 taught us to do this full triangle here. And it's just so much, especially when, as we get older, especially when that transition time, we're like, this is where they kind of start out. So instead of pulling all the way heaviness here, you're going to put the most in the darkest spot. Then you're going to blend it out so that the least amount is where our little wrinkles are. If you need more full coverage, I think it's better to layer in thin layers instead of one big thick piece, because that gets cakey very quickly. So as I said, I'm going to put the majority of it here, and then we will let it sit for just a second or two. We'll blend it out. But we're not doing this full triangle here. Hopefully, maybe I'll put a little picture up here of what I'm saying, but it really doesn't look good on an older skin type. It just doesn't. And that's my personal opinion. You do you, but full thick contour highlight in person is just not flattering, in my opinion. Coming from someone who has had, like, full disgusting acne in my 30s that I wanted to cover forever, the more I put on, the worse it looked. Okay, so I'm going to use, if you want a thicker coverage, a more dense brush is way better than a big fluffy brush. The fluffier the brush, the more diffused you're gonna get. So I should really be using a smaller brush here, but I'm just being lazy, because when you cover a zit, you want that coverage to stay mostly on what you're trying to cover and less the whole face. You know what I'm saying? So this is like a zit that became a scab, that became a something else. And so really I should be using a very tiny brush to pinpoint this. I'm not going anywhere today, but it's become a scab. So you want to use a tiny, tiny brush, and then you want to feather that out on the outside so that you're not getting the thick coverage on the whole chin. So you want everything to blend seamlessly. And same thing, I'm going to push this up because I have discoloration around my nose, my mouth, and my eyes, which most of us, as we are getting older into our 40s and older, that's where we get that redness and discoloration. So I'm packing it in that corner, pressing it where I have the darkest spot, and then I'm letting it blend out so that I don't have a ton of that coverage here where it sits in the fine lines. Are you gonna find a concealer that does not budge, that does not settle into fine lines? No, it doesn't exist. So stop searching for it. It doesn't exist. We're never gonna look like a perfect, smooth baby face, no matter what age you are. But this is just helpful because number one, you don't have to use as much product. I would say the harder part of this is the fade out and the blending and having a good brush to do that. So the pressing keeps the coverage and the pulling blends it. So you don't want to pull too much, but I'm pressing and then kind of pulling away. Ooh, it is so hot in here. And you don't want like the line of demarcation here. So you definitely want to press that until that blends that mark out. I will always recommend this brush. This is the IT Cosmetics Love is the Foundation brush. All right, let's turn the fan on. Okay, so I use the Natasha Denona concealer. It works really well for my skin. Wear whatever one is the best for you and just kind of use that technique. It's definitely a more medium coverage and I love it to spot conceal. So it works under my eyes and on my face, which is why I love it. So the second thing is kind of avoiding creams. Creams bring the juiciness back to the skin. Even if you're oily, you can layer. So we're going to use a little bit of a cream blush. If you're more oily, using something in more of a putty form is great. If you're dry, using something that is more emollient is great as well for you. If you want a beautiful cream blush for drier skin, the Milani Cheek Kiss. I like the Nude Kiss one. Look how disgusting this is. But this color, the cap really sucks. But this is way more emollient. And you can definitely see the moisture there. I love that, but that I can only wear short term. If I want something to last a little more long term, I like the e.l.f. Putty. And you can see the difference here in how dry this one is versus you can just see the moisture content. So we're going to use a little bit of this today, and then we're going to layer. If you are dry, you probably don't need to layer these creams. You can use them as is and they will stay. If you are more oily like me, I do like to layer unless I'm not going to be gone too long and it's okay for it to kind of fade away. If you're oily, you understand what I'm saying. I'm very, very oily and I live in Austin, Texas. And so you want to get a synthetic brush and I will blend this out, but I'm pushing and pressing. And then I'm going to use my foundation brush and what was left over of that concealer, and we will press this into the skin and blend the edges. But being afraid of creams, really can do you a disservice because it looks really beautiful on, I hate to say it, but we're in the aging skin category. So like I said, I'm going to take this foundation brush that had that leftover and we haven't powdered yet. And that's the other thing, is you don't want to over powder. The more powdery, the more dry, the older the skin looks. And again, I'm not trying to have you look 13, but if we want moisture and glow and youthfulness and suppleness to the skin, that's the difference. So it's very subtle, but it's not lifeless, you know? Okay, very quickly, I'm going to add a very, very fluffy brush. This is a synthetic duo fiber brush, and it works really, really beautifully with the NYX Buttermelt Bronzer because it's very pigmented. And again, the fluffier the brush, the easier it is to blend everything together and you get a lighter coverage. So we're just going to put this everywhere the sun would hit. I do not recommend using bronzer as a contour. I recommend using it as a bronzer where the sun hits. So that's giving kind of a setting for us oily peeps because it is a powder. And I recommend layering powder over cream if you are more oily. Okay, like I was saying about the powder, you don't want to, like the thicker the powder puff, the sponge, how you lay it on the skin makes a difference, which is why I like to use a big fluffy eyeshadow brush. And something like we just used for the bronzer would work really beautifully as well. I like to pinpoint my powder because I don't like to powder very heavily all over the face. And so I'm able to pinpoint a lot better with this. But you could use a duo fiber brush like we did for the bronzer for the powder, and it'll also give you a very light touch. Remember, the fluffier the brush, the lighter the coverage. So I'm going to, there's a powder that I really love and recommend, and it's worth the money, which is the Guerlain Meteorites. I think it works for oily and dry skin, and it helps to keep a little bit of a glow while kind of setting and giving you a little less shine, like oil shine. I like it because it also helps blend everything together without like a really powdery look. So as you can see, it doesn't look super dry. And again, I'm a real person, so you're gonna see wrinkles. We cannot get away from that. I am someone that does need to set the concealer around their eyes, but I don't like heavy powder. If you have a heavier powder, you can still use it by just using the fluffier brush. So you're not needing really to go out and buy anything new if you don't want to. It's more about the tools and how you use the products that helps give you the lightness. Okay, another thing that we tend to do a little too much of as we get older, and honestly, I don't like the look on very young people either, but that's lining all the way around our eyes very heavily. It does close the eye in. If you're going for that look, go for it. But a better like everyday routine would be to just put the liner on the lash line. So it gives you a little bit of definition without looking super harsh. If you don't like to do this in the lash line with a pencil, you can also use a very thin brush and some powder shadow. This does not need to be very defined. This is more about bringing out the features, less about technique. So I am going to look up just a little bit, and I'm just going to put, it's like how my mirror's broken. I'm just going to, because it's kind of a soft pencil, I'm able to just push this between the lash line, and then I can clean up, because, you know, it's a lot harder to do this when you talk. I can clean up anything on the lid and kind of use my finger to buff out the line if it gets on the lid a little bit. But you can see there's a little bit of a definition there without it being too harsh. I personally would leave the bottom lash line open. If you really want to define the lower lash line, I would use shadow. So I'm going to do the other side, put some mascara on, and we'll come back. Okay, we are back. I'm gonna have to clean up some things, and that's another little tip, is just letting, if you like get liner, mascara, whatever, let everything dry, and then you can just flick it off with a little Q-tip. So I'm gonna let this dry, but I wanted to talk about trends being the last thing. I don't think it's that as an older woman that I should, or a middle-aged woman, that I should not be following any trend. If I want to put glitter all over my face, I'm going to do it. If I want to be blush blind, I'm going to do it. If I want to wear red lipstick every day, I'm going to do it. And I think you should too. But what I think is really, really fun is having a signature. So my signature is not beautiful eyeshadow. I do wear it, and I'm back to wearing it again, and I'm having some fun with it. And when I say like fun eyeshadow, I'm talking like duochrome, crazy colors all over the eyes. I love that. I'm never gonna not do that, even as an older person. But I have a signature, and people kind of know me like this, is wearing a little bit extra blush and or wearing a bold lip. So I wanted to add that on and just encourage you to find what that is for you. Is it eyeshadow? Is it a really bold brow? Is it wearing faux lashes every day? Is it a purple lip? For me, especially in the summer when everything is so sweaty, I would rather do a bold lip than a beautiful, shimmery, crazy colored eyeshadow, only because of the climate I live in, the things I do every day, how oily my skin is, and how things just kind of get everywhere. Some days it's worth it, and some days I just don't want to make the effort when I know it's not going to stay. So for me, a bold lip is my favorite thing. So I did in the summer especially, instead of like a long wear like matte lipstick, which I still do, I like to do a lip tint and either do an oil on top or using that blush and giving more of a soft matte lip that doesn't feel too harsh. All right, let's clean up a little bit. Okay, so I sprayed my face with a beautiful setting spray. It's not really setting, I've talked about this, it's not really setting my makeup all day, but it makes everything look really beautiful, very glowy, and it's got SPF. It's the Naked Sundays SPF 50 spray. And I also took whatever was left over on my Duo Fiber blush brush and just pressed that in because I was missing just a little bit of color. And our brushes keep so much stuff. So I just did a little zhuzh zhuzh. I personally love to layer my blushes, but I did not need to do that. You can keep it as simple as possible. But I think I really love this look. It's my everyday look. It's a signature look. It makes me look my age, but not super dry, cakey, and gross. Like you can see that I mean, obviously I have lines and wrinkles, right? Like that's not gonna go away. None of the makeup is gonna make this go away. I don't look cakey. Is it gonna settle into my fine lines and get gooey and greasy in the humidity? Yes, because we're humans and we're like living in the real world. But hopefully these tips have helped you. Hopefully it simplifies your morning and gives you some new ideas on how to look beautiful every day. And again, wear whatever you want in the end. Like wear whatever you want in the end. These are just tips and tricks from a makeup artist who is middle-aged and has tried everything. So let me know if you have any tips below, and I'll see you next time. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Bye.